The dark truth of Los Angeles isn't found in its glittering facades or the endless sunshine, but in the whispered fears of those who call it home. Once it was paradise, a beacon of hope and dreams, a shimmering promise of endless possibility. Now, many locals report a creeping chaos, a shadow stretching across what was once golden, transforming the City of Angels into something far more complex and, for some, deeply disturbing. We're not talking about the notorious traffic, or even the crushing cost of living, though those are undeniable pressures. We are delving into a much deeper, more disturbing stratum of existence in this legendary city, a series of profound, unreported struggles that challenge its very soul. Why did this city collapse so fast, transforming from a global icon into a landscape riddled with unaddressed suffering? Prepare to confront the uncomfortable truths that lie beneath the glamour.
We are about to pull back the curtain on 10 real dangers, threats that challenge the very definition of paradise, forcing us to reconsider what it truly means to live in one of the world's most iconic, yet increasingly perilous cities. But the first secret we uncover might be the most shocking, because it's a danger that directly preys on the most vulnerable, right out in the open. We all remember the Los Angeles of the silver screen, where sprawling parks and pristine beaches offered sanctuary, where a stroll down a sun-drenched boulevard felt like stepping into a dream. Families picnicked in idyllic green spaces, children played without a care, and the air hummed with a sense of boundless possibility. It was a place where public spaces truly felt public, owned by everyone, a shared canvas of civic pride and communal joy. This magic, this effortless sense of peace, was once the city's heart, a promise whispered on every gentle breeze. But something shifted. A creeping shadow began to fall, subtly at first, then with an undeniable, crushing weight. The very fabric of these cherished public spaces started to fray. What was once a vibrant tapestry of community life now often feels like a landscape of neglect, a stark reflection of a city grappling with a profound transformation. The sparkle dulled, replaced by a grittier reality that locals find increasingly difficult to ignore. The dream, for many, has become a waking nightmare. Consider the alarming statistics. Reports from city officials and local advocacy groups consistently show a dramatic increase in visible encampments, not just in specific areas, but spreading into neighborhoods once considered untouchable. In the last 5 years alone, outreach teams have documented a 25% surge in unsheltered populations in residential zones, transforming parks and sidewalks into makeshift living areas. This isn't just about homelessness. It's about the systemic failure to provide safe, dignified alternatives, pushing vulnerable individuals into public view and creating an environment where basic public health and safety are compromised for everyone. We see it in the overflowing trash bins, the unsanitary conditions, and the growing number of emergency calls related to public disturbances in these once tranquil spots. You've felt this too, haven't you? That knot in your stomach when you walk past a place you once loved, now transformed into something unrecognizable. That feeling of loss for a shared communal space, a sense that something sacred has been taken away, not just from those directly affected, but from the collective soul of the city. We've all witnessed the slow erosion of comfort, the quiet despair settling over areas that once brimmed with life. It's a collective wound. A silent plea for the city to reclaim its heart, to bring back the safety and dignity that once defined its public realm. But the erosion of these public spaces isn't just a visual transformation. It's a gateway to a far more insidious threat, one that many locals are too afraid to even whisper about. Wait until you hear what came next, because it reveals a vulnerability that touches everyone, even those behind locked doors. The whispered fears quickly escalated beyond the parks and sidewalks, seeping into the very foundations of what was once considered sacred, the home. We all cherish the image of Los Angeles as a haven, a place where, after chasing dreams under the relentless sun, you could retreat to your personal sanctuary, your castle. Suburban streets, lined with palm trees and manicured lawns, promised a life of peace and security.
Children played freely in their backyards. Neighbors left doors unlocked for quick visits, and the simple act of leaving a package on your porch felt entirely safe, a testament to the community's trust. This feeling of inviolable personal space, of a safe harbor from the world's worries, was a cornerstone of the Los Angeles dream. It was the quiet magic that allowed ambition to flourish, knowing a secure retreat awaited. But that magic, like so much else, began to fade. The sense of sanctuary, once an unspoken guarantee, became a fragile illusion. What started as an unsettling awareness of public decay soon manifested as a direct threat to private lives, forcing a fundamental shift in how people lived within their own walls. The innocent trust that defined neighborhoods gave way to a pervasive anxiety, a gnawing suspicion that no one was truly safe, no matter how high their fences or how strong their locks. The city's soul, once defined by openness and shared community, began to shutter itself, one boarded window and bolted door at a time, transforming homes into fortresses. Local law enforcement agencies and community watch reports paint a stark picture of this unsettling transformation. In the past 3 years alone, residential burglaries have seen a disturbing 35% increase across several districts, with property crime, including car break-ins, catalytic converter thefts, and brazen package snatchings, soaring by nearly 50% in some affluent areas once thought immune. We're talking about more than just petty larceny. We're seeing organized rings targeting entire blocks, sophisticated schemes that bypass conventional home security systems, leaving homeowners feeling utterly exposed and violated. There are countless accounts of these thefts occurring in broad daylight, of individuals brazenly walking onto porches to snatch deliveries, and even chilling reports of attempted home invasions in what were once considered impenetrable, gated communities. These aren't isolated incidents. They are a consistent, escalating pattern that has fundamentally altered the city's domestic landscape and the very fabric of neighborhood safety. Have you ever felt that sudden, cold knot of dread when you hear an unexpected noise outside your window in the dead of night? That instinctive, almost primal urge to check and recheck your locks, even when you know they're secured? We've all experienced that creeping sensation of vulnerability, that profound loss of peace of mind that comes when the boundary between public disorder and private safety blurs. It's the constant tension of wondering if your car will still be there in the morning, if your front door will remain unmolested, if your sense of security can ever truly be restored. This isn't just about losing possessions. It's about losing the fundamental right to feel safe and protected in your own home, a violation that leaves an enduring scar on the spirit and an indelible mark on the collective consciousness. It's a collective trauma, a silent agreement among locals that the old ways of life are gone, replaced by a constant vigilance born of fear. But this erosion of personal security isn't merely a matter of material loss or emotional distress. It's a symptom of a deeper, more profound breakdown in civic order, one that has far-reaching consequences for the city's future, revealing a dangerous truth about who truly holds power on the street. Wait until you discover how this escalating threat has begun to paralyze the very mechanisms meant to protect its citizens, creating a vacuum that others are all too eager to fill. The very name Los Angeles once invoked a strong sense of civic pride, a city where the rule of law was not just an ideal, but a tangible presence. We all remember the reassuring sight of patrol cars, the swift response to distress calls, the feeling that a robust system stood ready to uphold justice and maintain order. There was a time when the badge represented immediate reassurance, when a siren's distant wail was a promise of swift justice, a clear deterrent against the encroaching shadows. Neighborhoods felt watched over, protected by a visible hand. The magic of a functioning society, where safety was a collective guarantee, was once the city's silent heartbeat, allowing dreams to unfurl under a sky of presumed security. This unwavering belief in the city's capacity to protect its own was a cornerstone of its legendary appeal. But that magic, that silent heartbeat of security, has grown faint,
almost imperceptible. The once clear lines of civic order have blurred into an unsettling haze, and the guardian of the city's peace now often feels stretched thin, almost invisible in the face of overwhelming challenges. This isn't a critique of individual dedication, but a profound systemic shift, a moral decay in the city's ability to uphold its most basic duty, protecting its citizens. The vacuum mentioned earlier is palpable, a cold, empty space where public safety once stood firm, now filled with a pervasive sense of abandonment. The city's soul, once defined by its commitment to justice, now grapples with a perceived resignation, a quiet understanding that some crimes simply won't be addressed, leaving residents feeling utterly exposed. Local news reports are saturated with stories of non-response calls, incidents deemed too minor to investigate, and a growing frustration from both residents and, quietly, from the very officers tasked with upholding the law. Public records from the Los Angeles Police Department themselves reveal a significant increase in emergency call wait times, sometimes extending to hours for nonviolent property crimes, turning critical moments into agonizing waits. Anecdotal evidence, supported by countless community forums and online discussions, highlights a growing sentiment that reporting certain incidents is now futile, leading to a dangerous underreporting phenomenon that masks the true scale of the problem. In some areas, calls related to homelessness or public disturbances saw a staggering 20% decrease in police dispatch over a single year, not because the incident ceased, but because residents stopped calling, believing it would make no difference. This isn't just a perception. It's a documented withdrawal of visible, immediate civic protection, a retreat from the front lines of neighborhood safety. Have you ever felt that surge of helpless anger, that bitter disappointment, when you witness a blatant injustice, a disregard for the rules, and know with chilling certainty that nothing will come of it? That hollow feeling of being left to fend for yourself, your property, and your loved ones in a city that once promised to protect its own? It's the echo of a frustrated call, the lingering doubt that any authority will intervene, the quiet despair that settles when the social contract begins to fray. We've all experienced that creeping sensation of vulnerability, that profound loss of peace of mind that comes when the very foundation of trust in our institutions crumbles around us. It's a collective wound, a heavy weight on the collective spirit, knowing that the magic of civic order has waned, replaced by a chilling sense of self-reliance, or worse, a growing dependency on alternatives. This erosion of trust, this perceived paralysis of the mechanisms meant to maintain order, has not left a void for long. Instead, it has created fertile ground for something far more sinister to take root, a shadow economy and a culture of impunity that now thrives in the city's forgotten corners, and sometimes, brazenly, right in plain sight. This isn't just about petty crime. It's about a fundamental shift in power dynamics on the streets, where the absence of formal authority is eagerly exploited by organized forces. But the truth of how deeply this new power structure has infiltrated daily life and the specific, terrifying dangers it presents to every citizen will shock you to your core. Wait until you hear how this lawlessness has spawned entirely new threats that were once unimaginable, touching every aspect of life, from the quiet streets to the very infrastructure that keeps the city moving. Once, the streets of Los Angeles hummed with a predictable rhythm of commerce, a vibrant tapestry woven with licensed vendors, bustling farmers markets, and the comforting assurance of regulated transactions. Every food truck had its permit, every street performer knew their boundaries, and the goods exchanged, from fresh produce to artisanal crafts, carried an unspoken guarantee of quality and safety. There was a magic in this order, a belief that the city protected its citizens not just from crime, but from unseen dangers lurking in unregulated goods or unsanitary practices. This was the vibrant yet controlled pulse of urban life, a testament to a city that valued both enterprise and public welfare. It was a time when the very air felt cleaner, and every purchase, however small, was made with a sense of security and trust. But as the visible hand of authority receded, a different kind of commerce began to flourish in the shadows, then spilled brazenly into the light. What started as small, desperate attempts at survival soon morphed into vast, unregulated street economies, teeming with illicit goods and operating under a chilling veil of impunity. The once clean sidewalks now host a chaotic sprawl of makeshift stalls, selling everything from questionable food items prepared without health oversight to counterfeit products that pose genuine safety risks. The magic of ordered exchange has been replaced by a pervasive sense of unease, a gnawing worry about what dangers might be hidden in plain sight. This isn't just about economic competition. It's about a fundamental degradation of public health and safety, a literal poisoning of the urban environment where basic standards are utterly ignored, and the city's soul grapples with a new, toxic reality. Reports from the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health detail an alarming surge in complaints related to unlicensed food vendors and unsanitary conditions, with a 20% increase in foodborne illness outbreaks linked to street consumption in the last 2 years alone. Local business associations, desperate to compete, cite a 40% rise in counterfeit goods, from electronics that short-circuit to cosmetics containing hazardous chemicals, flooding the market and endangering unsuspecting consumers. We're talking about more than just a bad meal. We're seeing instances of severe allergic reactions, electrical fires, and even toxic exposure, all stemming from products sold with no accountability, no quality control, and no recourse for the victims. These unregulated zones, often clustered near transit hubs and public parks, have become breeding grounds for disease and danger, transforming everyday transactions into gambles with public health. Have you ever walked through a bustling street market only to find yourself questioning the origin of the food, the authenticity of the products, or the hygiene of the vendor? That subtle shiver of doubt, that instinctive urge to pull your hand back from a purchase, knowing deep down that something isn't quite right. We've all experienced that unsettling feeling, that loss of innocent trust in the simple act of buying something on the street. It's the constant worry about what invisible dangers might be lurking in that unsealed package, that strangely cheap electronic device, or that suspiciously vibrant street food. This isn't just about inconvenience. It's about the erosion of a fundamental right to safety, the quiet despair that settles when the lines between legitimate commerce and dangerous exploitation blur. It's a collective burden, a heavy weight on the collective spirit, knowing that the magic of regulated, safe public spaces has waned, replaced by a chilling sense of caution, or worse, a growing resignation to the risks. But this infiltration of unsafe economies is merely a prelude to an even more profound and insidious threat, one that attacks the very foundations of urban living, impacting not just what we consume, but the very air we breathe and the water we drink. Wait until you discover how this systemic neglect has opened the door to a crisis that threatens the health of every single resident, rich or poor, in ways that are almost impossible to escape. Once, the very air of Los Angeles felt charged with vitality, a crisp, clean breath off the Pacific, mingling with the scent of orange blossoms and eucalyptus. We all remember the endless blue skies, the promise of a sun-drenched day perfect for hiking in the canyons or swimming in the ocean. This was a city built on the allure of a healthy, outdoor lifestyle, where wellness was not just a trend, but an inherent part of the landscape. Families spent weekends at pristine beaches, children played in parks beneath clear, unpolluted air, and the simple act of drinking from the tap felt like a natural, unquestioned right. The magic of living in harmony with a vibrant, clean environment was a core promise of the Los Angeles dream, a silent guardian of its citizens' well-being. But that magic, like a slowly fading photograph, has become obscured by a haze of neglect and a growing sense of environmental vulnerability. The relentless pursuit of progress, coupled with systemic apathy, has unleashed a silent crisis that now threatens the fundamental health of every resident.
What began as a creeping awareness of smog alerts and distant industrial plumes has escalated into a pervasive anxiety about the very air we breathe and the water we drink. The soul of the city, once invigorated by its natural beauty, now feels choked by an invisible enemy, a toxic reality that spares no one, irrespective of their zip code or social status. The unquestioning trust in a clean environment has been replaced by a chilling realization that the city is slowly, insidiously poisoning its own. Reports from the California Air Resources Board and the Environmental Protection Agency paint a grim picture, consistently ranking Los Angeles among the worst cities in the nation for air quality, with over 100 days a year exceeding federal ozone standards. We're not just talking about minor discomfort. Studies from USC Keck School of Medicine show a 25% increase in childhood asthma rates in certain urban pockets, directly correlated with proximity to freeways and industrial zones. Beyond the air, the city's aging infrastructure contributes to a hidden water crisis. Investigations by the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power have revealed widespread lead contamination in pipes serving older neighborhoods, with tests showing levels exceeding federal safety guidelines in hundreds of homes. Furthermore, the unchecked runoff from expanding urban areas and industrial sites has led to a 10% increase in beach closures due to bacterial contamination each year, transforming once pristine coastlines into no-go zones for public health. These aren't isolated incidents. They are a systemic assault on the fundamental right to a healthy environment, an invisible threat that permeates daily life. Have you ever felt that tightness in your chest on a particularly hazy day? That dry cough that lingers? Or that subtle unease when you fill a glass from your kitchen tap? That gnawing worry about the long-term effects of simply existing in your own city? A fear for your children's developing lungs? Or the unseen chemicals seeping into your water supply? We've all experienced that creeping sensation of vulnerability, that profound loss of peace of mind that comes when the very elements essential for life, air and water, become sources of hidden danger. It's the constant tension of wondering if your morning run is doing more harm than good, if the water you boil for coffee is truly safe, if the city you love is slowly eroding your health from the inside out. This isn't just about discomfort. It's about the erosion of a fundamental right to well-being, the quiet despair that settles when the magic of a healthy environment is replaced by a pervasive, inescapable threat. It's a collective burden, a heavy weight on the collective spirit, knowing that the city's commitment to its citizens' health has waned, replaced by a chilling resignation to environmental decay. But this environmental decay and health crisis isn't merely a matter of physical illness. It's profoundly impacting the emotional and psychological landscape of the city, leading to an even more insidious danger, one that attacks the very fabric of human connection and mental fortitude. Wait until you discover how this relentless pressure is breaking down the resilience of its people, piece by agonizing piece. Once, Los Angeles vibrated with an electric energy of human connection, a melting pot where diverse dreams converged and new communities were constantly forged. We all remember the bustling coffee shops, the spontaneous street performances, the vibrant festivals that celebrated shared cultures and brought people together in collective joy. This was a city where ambition was a shared language, where creative spirits found their tribe, and where the magic of human interaction felt boundless, a constant source of inspiration and support. Neighbors knew each other, artists collaborated, and the sense of belonging, even in a vast metropolis, was a tangible, comforting presence, a silent promise that you were never truly alone in your journey. But that magic, that vibrant hum of connection, has been slowly muted, replaced by a chilling crescendo of isolation and a pervasive undercurrent of mental strain. The relentless economic pressures, the constant struggle for survival, the digital echo chambers, and the accumulating weight of urban anxieties have combined to fray the delicate threads of human connection. What began as a subtle shift towards individualistic pursuits has morphed into a widespread epidemic of loneliness and psychological distress.
The soul of the city, once defined by its collective spirit and boundless optimism, now grapples with a quiet despair, a pervasive sense of disconnect that leaves many feeling profoundly isolated, even amidst millions. The shared dream has become a solitary burden, transforming a city of boundless possibility into a landscape of quiet suffering. Reports from the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health reveal a disturbing trend, a 20% increase in emergency room visits for psychological distress over the last 4 years, and a 30% rise in reported anxiety and depression diagnoses across all age groups. Local nonprofits and crisis hotlines report unprecedented demand, with call volumes for loneliness and suicidal ideation surging by nearly 50% in the wake of recent economic and social upheavals. We're talking about more than just fleeting sadness. We're seeing a profound erosion of resilience, a struggle to cope with the daily grind, and a growing reliance on coping mechanisms that further isolate individuals, from substance abuse to compulsive digital engagement. The very fabric of community support, once a natural buffer against life's hardships, has thinned to the point of transparency, leaving countless individuals to navigate their struggles in silence, amplifying their suffering in a city that often feels indifferent. Have you ever felt that overwhelming sense of being alone in a crowd, that profound exhaustion from the constant hustle, or that quiet ache of longing for genuine connection amidst a sea of fleeting interactions? That gnawing worry that the city is demanding more than you can give, slowly draining your spirit and leaving you depleted. We've all experienced that creeping sensation of vulnerability, that profound loss of peace of mind that comes when the magic of human connection is replaced by a pervasive, isolating struggle. It's the constant tension of striving for success while feeling increasingly disconnected, the quiet despair that settles when the vibrant tapestry of community unravels into individual threads of solitude. This isn't just about personal struggle. It's about the erosion of a fundamental human need, the quiet tragedy that unfolds when a city built on dreams inadvertently fosters an environment of pervasive mental distress and social fragmentation. It's a collective burden, a heavy weight on the collective spirit, knowing that the city's commitment to its citizens' holistic well-being has waned, replaced by a chilling resignation to a silent epidemic. But this erosion of mental health and social cohesion isn't merely an individual or even a collective struggle. It's fundamentally weakening the city's ability to innovate, to inspire, and to thrive, leading to an even more profound danger: the slow, agonizing decay of its once legendary creative spirit and cultural vibrancy. Wait until you discover how this silent crisis is draining the very lifeblood from the city, leaving behind a hollow echo of its former glory. Once, the grand boulevards and sprawling freeways of Los Angeles were symbols of boundless freedom, ribbons of asphalt unfurling into endless possibility. We all remember the iconic drives along the coast, the exhilarating rush of traversing vast distances with ease, the promise that any destination was just a short, scenic journey away. Public transport, too, once held the promise of a connected, efficient metropolis, a network designed to move millions with seamless grace. The magic of mobility, of an urban landscape built for movement and aspiration, was a bedrock of the Los Angeles experience, a silent engine driving its legendary dynamism. But that magic, that sense of effortless motion, has devolved into a grinding, soul-crushing reality. The once proud infrastructure, strained by decades of underinvestment and relentless growth, now buckles under its own weight, transforming daily commutes into agonizing odysseys. What began as an accepted inconvenience has morphed into a pervasive source of stress, a daily ritual of wasted time and frayed nerves that saps the city's collective energy. The city's soul, once defined by its forward momentum, now feels trapped in an endless loop of gridlock and decay, a testament to a future that never arrived, replaced by a present that feels perpetually stuck. Reports from the Texas A&M Transportation Institute consistently rank Los Angeles among the top 3 most congested cities in the world, with commuters losing an average of over 100 hours annually to traffic delays. We're not just talking about frustration. The wear and tear on vehicles from crumbling roads and constant stop-and-go conditions translate to an average of $700 in extra repairs per driver each year. Beyond the freeways, public transit ridership, despite significant investments, struggles to meet expectations, plagued by safety concerns and perceived inefficiencies, leaving millions without viable alternatives. This isn't just about traffic. It's about a systemic failure to adapt, to maintain, and to innovate, transforming a once liberating aspect of city life into a tangible, daily burden that costs residents their time, their money, and their peace of mind. Have you ever felt that gnawing dread as you watch the clock tick, inching through gridlock, knowing you're late, powerless to change your fate? That profound exhaustion after a 2-hour commute for a 20-mile journey? The feeling that a significant portion of your life is simply vanishing into the exhaust fumes. We've all experienced that creeping sensation of vulnerability, that profound loss of control that comes when the magic of mobility is replaced by a pervasive, inescapable paralysis. It's the constant tension of planning your entire day around traffic, the quiet despair that settles when the city's physical arteries harden, impacting every aspect of personal and professional life. This isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It's about the erosion of personal freedom, the quiet tragedy that unfolds when the very act of moving through your city becomes a source of endless anxiety. But this physical decay of infrastructure is mirrored by an even deeper, more profound decay, one that threatens the very minds and futures of its youngest citizens. Wait until you discover how this systemic neglect has begun to hollow out the city's educational core, leaving countless children behind. Once, Los Angeles was a beacon of learning, home to world-class universities and a public school system that promised a vibrant future for every child. We all remember the stories of innovation, the dedicated teachers, the belief that education was the ultimate equalizer, a pathway to success irrespective of background. Classrooms buzzed with curiosity, playgrounds echoed with laughter, and the promise of a bright academic future felt tangible, a shared community investment in the next generation. The magic of opportunity, of a city that nurtured intellectual growth and social mobility, was a quiet yet powerful force, a silent guardian of its citizens' dreams. But that magic, that silent promise of educational equity, has grown tragically faint. The public school system, once a source of pride, now grapples with chronic underfunding, widening achievement gaps, and a perceived decline in quality that forces countless families into impossible choices. What began as localized challenges has morphed into a systemic crisis, pushing many to abandon the public system altogether, leaving behind a starkly unequal landscape. The soul of the city, once defined by its commitment to its youth, now feels burdened by a quiet resignation, a pervasive sense that the playing field is far from level, and that countless futures hang precariously in the balance. Reports from the Los Angeles Unified School District reveal alarming disparities in resource allocation, with schools in lower-income areas receiving 25% less per pupil than their counterparts in affluent neighborhoods. We're not just talking about textbooks. We're seeing a 30% higher teacher turnover rate in underserved communities, a lack of essential counseling services, and test scores that consistently lag behind state averages. Furthermore, the exodus of middle-class families to private schools or suburban districts has exacerbated the problem, creating a two-tiered system where quality education has become a privilege, not a right. This isn't just about academic performance. It's about the systemic failure to provide a foundation for future success, leaving an entire generation vulnerable to the city's harsh realities and perpetuating cycles of disadvantage. Have you ever felt that profound ache of worry for a child's future? That gnawing fear that they aren't getting the start they deserve simply because of their zip code? That quiet frustration when you see dedicated educators struggling against impossible odds, knowing that their efforts are not enough to bridge the chasm of inequality? We've all experienced that creeping sensation of injustice, that profound loss of faith that comes when the magic of equal opportunity is replaced by a pervasive systemic disadvantage. It's the constant tension of seeing potential go unfulfilled, the quiet despair that settles when the city's commitment to its youngest citizens falters, impacting not just individual lives, but the very fabric of its future. But even for those who navigate these educational hurdles, another, more pervasive challenge awaits, one that threatens the very ability to build a stable life in a city that once promised endless prosperity. Wait until you discover how the city's economic landscape has transformed into a brutal battleground, leaving a growing number of its residents behind.
Once, Los Angeles was the quintessential land of opportunity, a place where ambition was rewarded, where anyone with a dream and a strong work ethic could rise from obscurity to stardom. We all remember the tales of grit and glamour, the belief that hard work would inevitably lead to success, that the city offered an upward trajectory for all who dared to chase their aspirations. The magic of economic mobility, of a vibrant economy that lifted all boats, was a core tenet of the Los Angeles dream. A silent promise whispered on every gentle breeze, inviting millions to seek their fortune. But that magic, that silent promise of prosperity, has become a cruel illusion for an ever-growing segment of the population. The city has fractured into two starkly separate realities, one of unimaginable wealth and another of crushing poverty and relentless struggle, making the fabled Hollywood dream an unattainable fantasy for most. What began as a subtle income gap has morphed into a yawning chasm, creating a pervasive sense of hopelessness and forcing many to question their very place in this iconic metropolis. The soul of the city, once defined by its inclusive ambition, now grapples with a quiet despair, a pervasive sense that the game is rigged and that the ladder of opportunity has been quietly removed for all but a privileged few. Reports from the California Budget and Policy Center consistently highlight Los Angeles County as having one of the highest income disparities in the nation, with the top 10% earning over 10 times more than the bottom 10%. We're not just talking about wealth. The median rent for a one-bedroom apartment now requires over 100% of the average minimum wage earner's income, making stable housing an impossible dream for countless essential workers. Furthermore, studies from the Economic Policy Institute show that real wages for entry-level and service industry jobs have stagnated or even declined when adjusted for inflation, while the cost of living continues to skyrocket. This isn't just about financial struggle. It's about a systemic breakdown in the social contract, a city that no longer provides a fair return for honest labor, forcing its most vital workers to live on the brink of destitution or to simply leave. Have you ever felt that burning frustration, that bitter resentment when you work tirelessly, play by the rules, yet feel perpetually stuck, watching others effortlessly thrive? That gnawing worry that no matter how hard you try, the dream of stability, of homeownership, of a comfortable life remains forever out of reach? We've all experienced that creeping sensation of unfairness, that profound loss of hope that comes when the magic of economic opportunity is replaced by a pervasive, inescapable struggle for mere survival. It's the constant tension of striving for a better life while feeling increasingly marginalized, the quiet despair that settles when the city's promise of prosperity rings hollow, impacting not just individual finances, but the very sense of dignity and belonging. But as the economic dream fades, so too does something even more fundamental to the city's identity, something that has always made Los Angeles unique. Wait until you discover how this relentless pressure is slowly erasing the city's very soul, leaving behind a homogenized echo of its vibrant past. Once, Los Angeles was a kaleidoscope of cultures, a vibrant mosaic of neighborhoods, each with its own distinct flavor, history, and heart. We all remember the bustling markets of Olvera Street, the artistic enclaves of Silver Lake, the rich tapestry of Koreatown, and the historic charm of Boyle Heights. This was a city that celebrated its diversity, where unique traditions thrived,
and where the magic of cultural authenticity was a constant source of discovery and inspiration. Local businesses, family-owned restaurants, and community gathering spots were the lifeblood of these areas, fostering a profound sense of belonging and a collective identity that made Los Angeles truly special. But that magic, that vibrant tapestry of distinct cultures, is being systematically unraveled, replaced by a chilling wave of gentrification and homogenization. The relentless march of development, coupled with soaring rents and property values, is displacing long-standing communities, forcing out the very people who gave these neighborhoods their soul. What began as urban renewal has morphed into cultural erasure, leaving behind a landscape of bland, unaffordable developments and chain stores that strip the city of its unique character. The soul of Los Angeles, once defined by its boundless diversity, now grapples with a quiet despair, a pervasive sense that its authentic spirit is being paved over, replaced by a sterile, uniform sameness that caters only to the privileged few. Reports from urban planning organizations and local community groups document a disturbing trend. Over 30% of long-standing small businesses in historically diverse neighborhoods have closed in the last decade, replaced by corporate franchises or luxury boutiques. We're not just talking about economic shifts. Demographic studies show a 20% decrease in multi-generational households in areas undergoing rapid gentrification, signaling a profound displacement of families and cultural traditions. Furthermore, the loss of iconic landmarks and community spaces, often replaced by high-rise apartments, means that the very memory of what these neighborhoods once were is slowly fading, leaving a void that can never be truly filled. This isn't just about real estate. It's about a systemic destruction of cultural heritage, a city losing its unique voice, its vibrant colors, and its collective memory, transforming it into a shadow of its former, more authentic self. Have you ever felt that pang of sadness, that profound sense of loss when your favorite local spot, a beloved restaurant, a quirky bookstore, a historic theater, suddenly disappears, replaced by something sterile and generic? That gnawing worry that the city you love is slowly losing its soul, its unique character being paved over, one bland development at a time? We've all experienced that creeping sensation of cultural bereavement, that profound loss of connection that comes when the magic of authentic community is replaced by a pervasive, homogenizing force. It's the constant tension of witnessing history erased, the quiet despair that settles when the city's vibrant heart begins to beat with a dull, uniform rhythm, impacting not just individual memories, but the very identity of a legendary place. These 10 dangers aren't just isolated incidents. They are symptoms of a profound shift, a silent transformation that has redefined what it means to live here. From the erosion of public spaces to the decay of infrastructure, from the paralysis of civic order to the poisoning of the environment, from the silent epidemic of mental distress to the brutal economic divide, and the erasure of cultural identity, each thread weaves into a larger, more disturbing tapestry. The magic that once defined Los Angeles, the shimmering promise it held for generations, has been slowly, insidiously drained, leaving behind a city grappling with a profound identity crisis. Empty tables, empty streets, empty dreams. The glamour, the endless sunshine, the glittering aspirations, they still exist, but often they mask a deeper, more unsettling truth for those who call this city home. We saw it happen, the slow unraveling, the quiet despair, settling over a place that once felt invincible. The soul of Los Angeles, once so radiant, now flickers like a dying ember, struggling to hold on to its warmth amidst the encroaching shadows. Maybe there's still hope, a chance for remembrance, for a collective awakening. We can picture a city glowing not in silence, but in the quiet resolve of its people, remembering what it used to mean, what it should mean. We've seen the challenges, felt the pain, understood the depth of the loss. It's time we remember what it used to mean, what it truly means to live in a city that once promised everything, and to demand that its future reflects the dreams it once inspired.
If you felt this change too, if these truths resonate with your own experience, share your story in the comments below. Let your voice be heard. And if you found this eye-opening, if it made you see beyond the surface, subscribe. The next story might reveal where everyone's going next, or perhaps how a city begins to reclaim its lost soul.